In honor of Memorial Day, we're going to take a look at this iconic World War II film, The Sands of Iwo Jima, starring John Wayne. Now, this classic film has recently been given a 4K UHD treatment by Kino Lorber. And in this video, we're going to dive into the story. We're going to talk about this new 4K transfer, and we're going to talk about why this film still resonates with audiences today. And if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now, recently, I did another review on a different Kino Lorber release, and that was Bug. Now, I'm surprised I haven't gotten more acclaim from the review I did of Bug. I thought it turned out pretty good. I've been expecting an award to show up on my doorstep. It hasn't shown up yet, but I would recommend taking a look at that, and you'll be very impressed, I'm sure. Back to the Sands of Iwo Jima. Now, Memorial Day in the United States of America is a time to honor those who gave their lives or died in service for their country. This film, it takes place during World War II, which ended in 1945. The Sands of Iwo Jima was released just 4 years later in 1949. At the time, the wounds from the war were still quite present in the minds of the American public. The film could easily have been a piece of, patriotic propaganda or a glorification of combat or heroism, but it does a little bit more than that. It's more nuanced, and for the most part, it covers the harsh realities of war, including the fear and the loss. It shows the cost of war both psychologically and physically. So it hits a little deeper, and it doesn't go into like a propaganda sort of state. I think it shows fairly, like, especially like John Wayne's character, Sergeant Stryker. He's portrayed. He's a fairly complex character. But he's also flawed. His group of people that he trains, there's almost a kind of a group of misfit soldiers in a way that he's having to train to get ready to go into war. Now, for anyone who's seen like more recent productions of similar things, like say the Band of Brothers or the Pacific actually covers Iwo Jima in that film, but it is similar to that, but it happens way before that. Also, say if we look at the Full Metal Jacket, like the training in that character Arlie Ermy plays, but here John Wayne, we've seen all that. So we've seen now. I mean, obviously this was earlier, but now we're more familiar with the way Army sergeants work, and his group don't like the way that he acts, but he's not as intense or aggressive as sometimes of that we're used to seeing on screen. And really, when you're watching this, it kind of seems like the people he's trying to train are really insubordinate in some ways. They're not hugely insubordinate, but he does seem like a pretty good sergeant for the most part at first, even though there's a lot of grumblings amongst the men about how he sucks and they want to kill him and things of that nature. They don't like him. And this could be a leadership thing. It could be more of a, yes, he's strict, but he also, they just don't respect him in some ways. So maybe it is something to do with that. He doesn't hold himself the right way for them to respect him. But later on in the film, when they get into the battles, they start to respect him more after that, because he does at heart, he is committed to his men. He does have flaws that are seen. He has a drinking problem at one point. They go out in town and he gets smashed drunk. So it's an interesting thing to see a character who should be a big hero have those type of flaws, and it actually helps humanize the character, which helps the film ultimately. And a lot of the characters are humanized in a way that they don't come off as and it kind of just shows a different side of the war, that maybe at this time it still honors the soldiers, and it doesn't show them in a exploitive light, but it does show them in a flawed light oftentimes. A quick spoiler: this is one of only 5 times that John Wayne's character dies in a film. The last time his character dies in a film was in his last film, The Shootist, which is, as you can see, has an Arrow video release, limited edition. but for that alone, this makes this a standout film in his filmography. But it's also a very powerful film when it comes to the bravery of the U.S. Marines and just the depictions of the battle scenes. They're quite brutal during the film. Now we've seen the Pacific and Band of Brothers and stuff like that, and Saving Private Ryan. Those battle scenes maybe look more brutal, but here there is some brutality going on here, and they also incorporate actual war footage into real war footage into the film. Now, when it cuts to this war footage, it's shot with different cameras, so it doesn't look quite as sharp or as clean as the stuff that they shot. So speaking of that, let's get into this 4K transfer. It does look quite good. There is a Blu-ray included in here. So I was able to compare the Blu-ray to the 4K. Now, the biggest difference, this is a 1949 film, and it is black and white. So for people who have a hard time with black and white films, you're going to have a hard time with this film because it's not in color. But it looks quite good. It is old. It is shot with, it does have bars on the side, so it's not widescreen. Now, looking at the difference between the 4K and the Blu-ray, the biggest difference is the HDR. Now, there is, of course, 4K has more pixels. There is an upgrade to that. You see more details generally, but they look similar except for the HDR, which makes the blacks much deeper. And this is a lot more contrast, but it does look a little darker. Like in general, the picture looks a little darker. So I watched the film in its entirety on 4K, and after that, I did watch some scenes looking at it on the Blu-ray, just comparing the difference between the two scenes. And I did see some differences, especially in the darkness with the HDR and things of that nature. But it looks good in both of them. There is a very natural film grain structure going on, and it's very respectful to its source. It seems to be in fairly good shape. The source does for the most part. So it is like an older film, but for it doesn't look like a brand new film. But for its age and how it was shot and things of that nature, I think they did a really good job with this 4K transfer. It definitely adds to it. Now, John Wayne gets a lot of screen time here, but he's not really the protagonist of the film. The protagonist of the film is played by John Ager, and he plays a character named Peter Conway. He's one of the Marines, and he's under John Wayne's character Stryker's command, but he doesn't get along with him. They're always butting heads. Now, previously, John Wayne's character served under this character's dad, and this character doesn't want to be in the army. They were drafted into it, and he doesn't want to be there. And he's kind of he's often not kind of just not being nice to Stryker, and they're having issues. So there is that tension that goes throughout the film, and it kind of adds some drama to the film as it goes through. And there's some pretty good scenes between the two characters, and there's a really good scene near the end. But but other than him, there does focus on several other of the people in the troops, which kind of gives them different characterizations, and some of them end up dying in the battles, or some of them in the earlier battle and then later battle. So it just kind of adds to the realism and the poignancy of the whole thing. So let's take a look at the physical packaging here. Again, this is a Kino Lorber release. It's kind of got its standard packaging. We do have a slip cover, which is nice. Let's slip this thing right out of this slip cover. On the inside, we have the same artwork as that's on the slip cover, and that's what the back looks like. On the inside, we have two discs. We have a 4K and a Blu-ray. And on the inside, we just have white, and that's it. So this is kind of usually what happens with Kino Lorber's releases. Usually, even on the disc, there's like no artwork. It just has the name of the film and all that. But it's fairly simple, but it is what it is. At the end of the film, and this is a mild spoiler, but I think most people are already kind of aware of it, the main characters of the film do witness the raising of the American flag on Mount Suribachi, symbolizing the victory of taking over that island, and kind of the unity of all the soldiers. But they do witness that event that is a very famous picture that most people have seen before, and they also have a statue commemorating it. All right, let's go ahead and rate the film. On a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, I'm going to give the Sands of Iwo Jima, I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. For some, that may seem a little high. A couple reasons why I'm giving it 4 stars. One is it is an older movie from 1949. It has a great performance by John Wayne in it. I kind of went off what I was originally going to say. What I was going to say is it is more or less a prototype for war films that come after this. Now, this may seem a little more sanitized than what we're used to in war films. That nowadays they're more gritty, they're more gruesome, more violent. Now there is a pretty good bit of violence in this, and for the time it is somewhat effective. I think it is still very effective. And I'm going to give Kino Lorber, I'm going to give them 4 stars for what they've done here, mostly because of the transfer. But is this a film you'd want to add to your collection? I mean, that's up to you. If you like black and white older films, if you like John Wayne films, if you like war movies, this is definitely for you. It's very well done in those. Even if you don't like those type of films, it's kind of, sometimes it's nice to just watch something different that you're not used to watching. And I think this is a very good example of an earlier war film that still holds up today. It's still effective. But if you would do me a favor and go ahead and like this video and perhaps subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.